My fiancée demanded, "Lose 40 pounds before the wedding, or I'm finding someone who takes care of himself." I gained weight during kidney dialysis. I said, "I'll work on my health." Then I ended the engagement, started recovery, and lost weight on my own terms. When she saw my transformation photo go viral on Instagram, I-29 male was sitting in our kitchen, completely exhausted, holding a cold cup of coffee. I had an arteriovenous fistula in my left arm, covered by a white sleeve. My kidneys had failed 10 months prior due to a severe autoimmune complication. I went from being a very active, athletic guy to someone hooked up to a dialysis machine 3 days a week for 4 hours at a time. The steroids and the fluid retention were absolutely brutal. I swelled up like a balloon. My face rounded out, and I put on 40 pounds of pure, uncomfortable water weight and steroid bulk. It was a daily fight just to stay alive, let alone feel like myself. My fiancée walked into the kitchen and dropped the bridal magazine right on the table. It slapped against the wood, making me jump. She didn't ask how my nephrology appointment went that morning. She didn't ask if my blood pressure was finally stabilizing. She just pointed a manicured finger at a picture of a male model in a slim-fit tuxedo. "You need to fit into something like this," she said. Her voice was totally flat, completely devoid of any warmth or empathy. "The photos are going to be ruined. Lose 40 pounds before the wedding, or I'm finding someone who actually takes care of himself." I honestly just stared at her. The refrigerator hummed in the background. My blood was literally being cleaned outside my body every other day just so I wouldn't die, and her primary concern was the aesthetic of our wedding photos. I looked down at my swollen hands. "I am on dialysis." I told her, "My kidneys are barely functioning at 9%. This weight is fluid and medication, not from eating junk food. It's discipline." She snapped right back, crossing her arms. "You just sit around all day. You don't even try anymore. I'm not walking down the aisle with someone who looks like this. I won't be embarrassed in front of my family. You have 6 months. Fix it." I looked up at the woman I had proposed to, the woman I had bought a condo with, standing there giving me an ultimatum over a medical crisis I never asked for. I didn't yell. I didn't throw my coffee mug. "I'll work on my health," I said quietly. She rolled her eyes, grabbed her keys, and walked out to go to a brunch with her friends like she hadn't just shattered our entire relationship. I walked into our home office to print some medical records for an insurance claim I was dealing with. When I moved the mouse on her desktop computer, the screen woke up. She had left her WhatsApp web application open. I know I shouldn't have looked, but a message thread with her mother was pinned right at the top, and the preview text caught my eye. It said, "He's just gross now." I clicked it. The messages were a long, continuous stream of complaints about my illness. She told her mother that I was milking the diagnosis to avoid doing household chores. She actually said the sight of my dialysis port disgusted her. But the real gut punch was a few messages down. Her mother asked her about a coworker of hers. My fiancé replied, "He's amazing. We went to the hotel downtown yesterday. He actually goes to the gym. I'm just waiting to secure the condo before I pull the plug on this wedding. I need to figure out how to keep the down payment." I sat in the chair, feeling the room spin. The silence in the house was deafening. She wasn't just cruel and vain. She was actively cheating on me with her coworker, and she was plotting to steal the equity in the home I had paid for. I paid the entire $60,000 down payment from my own savings before we met. We were joint tenants with right of survivorship, which was a massive legal mistake I made out of blind love. I didn't confront her when she got home. Instead, I took out my phone. I took clear, high-resolution pictures of every single message on her screen. I emailed them to a secure address she didn't know about. Then I closed the tab, shut down the computer, and went to lay down. The engagement was instantly over my mind. Now, it was just a tactical extraction. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in deception on my part. I played the role of the compliant, struggling partner. She escalated her entitlement, clearly thinking I was too weak and sick to fight back or notice what was happening. She started a smear campaign behind my back. I received a text from my sister asking why I was refusing to do physical therapy and why I was being emotionally abusive to my fiancée. It turned out my fiancée had been calling my family, feeding them a completely fabricated narrative that my illness was a lifestyle choice and that she was an absolute martyr for staying with me. She wanted to isolate me. She wanted to control the narrative so that when the inevitable breakup happened, I would be painted as the villain. Then she tried her first major dirty trick. I came home from a brutal, exhausting dialysis session. It was pouring rain. I walked up to the front door of our condo and put my key in the lock. It wouldn't turn. I tried again, jiggling it. The mechanism was completely different. It was brand new hardware. My phone buzzed. It was a text from her. It read, "I need space. You are too toxic right now. Go stay with your father. I'll let you know when you can come get your things." She was trying to legally evict me. Under USA real estate and tenancy laws, you absolutely cannot lock out a co-owner or even a standard tenant without a formal court order and a legal eviction process. It is known as a self-help eviction, and it is highly illegal. I didn't reply to her text. I didn't bang on the door or cause a scene. I went back to my car, out of rain, called the police non-emergency line, and requested an officer dispatch for an illegal lockout at my primary residence. 20 minutes later, a cruiser pulled up. 2 officers got out. I showed them my driver's license with the condo's address printed right on it. I then pulled up the county property appraiser website on my phone and showed them the warranty deed with my name clearly listed as a joint owner. The officers walked up and knocked heavily on the door. She opened it, looking incredibly smug, but her face completely dropped when she saw the uniform standing on our porch. "Officers, he's being erratic." I asked him to leave, she said, putting on this fake, soft, trembling voice. "Ma'am, is his name on the deed to this property?" The older officer asked. "Well, yes, but we are having a dispute, and I don't feel comfortable." She trailed off. "This is a civil matter regarding ownership, and you cannot change the locks on a co-owner." The officer interrupted, his tone dead serious. "He has every legal right to enter this domicile. If you restrict his access, you are committing an illegal lockout. You will give him a key right now, or we will authorize him to hire a locksmith to drill this door open at your expense. If you feel unsafe, you are free to leave." The absolute shock on her face was priceless. Her entitlement hit a massive brick wall of legal reality. She silently went to the kitchen, grabbed a spare key, and shoved it into the officer's hand. She immediately packed a suitcase, glaring at me with pure hatred, and stormed out. I knew exactly where she was going. She was heading straight to her co-worker's apartment. The very next morning, I retained a bulldog of a real estate litigation attorney. I handed over the deed, the bank statements proving my sole contribution to the down payment, and instructed him to file a formal complaint for partition. A partition action is a lawsuit that forces the sale of a jointly owned property when the owners cannot agree. But I wasn't just going to let the court sell it and split the proceeds 50-50. I wanted my money back. Things started moving very quickly. I officially canceled the wedding venue. Because I was the only one who had actually signed the vendor contracts, I managed to get a partial refund sent directly to my private, individual bank account. When she found out the wedding was officially canceled, she completely lost her mind. She retaliated by doing the absolute worst thing possible. We had a joint savings account with about $25,000 in it. It was money meant for real emergencies and wedding overages. I had contributed roughly $20,000 of it from my own paychecks. I woke up a few days later to a zero balance alert on my banking app. She had walked into a local branch and withdrawn every single cent via cashier's check. I called my lawyer immediately, pacing the floor. He was completely calm. "Let her hang herself," he told me. In the United States, while either party on a joint account has the technical ability to withdraw funds, draining an account in anticipation of litigation or separation to purposely deprive the other party of their equitable share is actionable. It's considered dissipation of assets, and depending on the state, it crosses directly into civil conversion. My lawyer amended our petition lawsuit that same week. We added counts for civil theft and breach of fiduciary duty. We also sent out a subpoena Dutses Tecum to her new individual bank. legally forcing them to produce the exact records of where that $25,000 went. While the legal gears grinded slowly over the next 8 months, an absolute miracle happened for me. My brother, who had been undergoing quiet, extensive medical testing without telling me, was confirmed as a perfect match for a kidney transplant. The surgery was a complete success. The moment I received the new kidney, my body began to rapidly heal. The extreme fluid retention vanished in a matter of weeks. I was slowly tapered off the heavy, miserable doses of prednisone. Once I was finally cleared by my medical team, I hit the gym with an absolute vengeance. The anger, the betrayal, and the sheer relief of being healthy again fueled every single workout. I was lifting heavy. I was doing cardio. I completely overhauled my diet. 10 months after she walked out that door with her suitcase, the transformation was insane. I had lost 55 pounds. The puffy steroid moon face was completely gone. I had a sharp jawline again. I had put on significant muscle mass. I looked entirely different. I felt alive for the first time in over a year and a half. I decided to post a side-by-side picture on Instagram. On the left, a picture of me swollen, pale, and miserable sitting in the dialysis chair. On the right, a picture taken at the gym that morning, lean, muscular, and actually smiling. I wrote a simple caption. Kidney failure took a lot from me. It almost took my life. But a transplant, a second chance, and removing toxic elements from my environment brought me back. Never settle. The post somehow caught the algorithm. It went totally viral. In 48 hours, it had over 80,000 likes. Fitness pages were sharing it. Kidney disease awareness groups were sharing it. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. And inevitably she saw it. Her relationship with the coworker was already falling apart. The guy liked to party and go out, not pay bills, or deal with real life. She had been living with him, and the reality of a dead-end relationship was finally setting in for her. She started calling my phone. Dozens of times. She left voicemails crying, saying she had made a terrible mistake, that she always knew I had it in me, and that she was so proud of my transformation. She even had the absolute audacity to comment on the viral post itself, writing, "So proud of my man. We conquered this together." I literally laughed out loud. I deleted her comment, permanently blocked her number, and let my lawyer handle the rest. The trap was fully set, and the jaws were about to snap shut. The climax of all this happened in a sterile, freezing cold conference room in a downtown law office. It was a court-mandated mediation for the petition and civil theft lawsuit before we went to trial. I walked in wearing a perfectly tailored suit. I looked sharp. I looked incredibly healthy. She sat across a heavy wooden table, flanked by some cheap attorney she had hired. She looked exhausted and stressed. The entitlement was still lingering in her posture, but it was fragile. She couldn't take her eyes off me the entire time we were setting up. Her attorney started the opening statement with a whole lot of bluster. He demanded a strict 50-50 split of the condo's current market value, entirely ignoring my initial down payment. He also claimed the $25,000 she took from the joint account was simply reimbursement for her emotional distress and living expenses during my illness. My lawyer just sat there and let him finish his entire speech. Then he calmly opened a thick manila folder and slid a stack of highlighted documents across the table. "We subpoenaed your client's bank records," my lawyer said, his voice cold and incredibly precise. "We tracked the cashier's check. Your client deposited the joint funds into a new personal account. Over the next 3 months, she used $12,000 of those joint funds to pay off the personal credit card debt of a third party, her coworker. She used another $8,000 for luxury vacations to Cabo San Lucas with this exact same third party." Her attorney literally stopped writing mid-sentence. He looked at the bank documents, traced the highlighted lines with his pen, and then slowly turned to look at his client. She went completely pale. All the color drained from her face. Under state law, my lawyer continued, not missing a beat, "This is textbook civil conversion. We have already drafted a motion to seek treble damages under the civil theft statute. This means we will be asking the judge to order your client to pay back 3 times the amount stolen, which is $75,000, plus all of our attorney's fees." My lawyer then slid a single, crisp second piece of paper across the table. It was a quitclaim deed. "Here is our one and only offer," my lawyer said. "Your client will sign this deed today, permanently relinquishing any and all right, title, and interest in the condominium to my client. She will walk away with absolutely zero equity. In exchange, my client will not pursue the civil theft judgment, which would bankrupt her instantly, and we will not forward this entire file to the district attorney's office for a criminal fraud investigation regarding the blatant embezzlement of joint funds." Her attorney immediately asked for a private caucus. They practically ran into the hallway. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I watched her attorney waving his hands frantically, clearly explaining to her that she was completely, legally cornered. She was crying hysterically, but they weren't tears of remorse for what she did to me. They were the tears of a narcissist realizing they had finally been caught and utterly defeated. They came back into the room 20 minutes later. She wouldn't even look in my direction. Her hands physically shook as she picked up the pen and signed a quitclaim deed, surrendering every single thing she thought she was entitled to. She tried to speak to me as we were packing up our briefcases. "You didn't have to be this ruthless," she whispered, playing the victim one last time. I looked her dead in the eyes and smiled. I just worked on my health and my finances. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than air. I sold the condo a month later in a hot market, getting my entire initial down payment and all the appreciated equity back in full. I heard through mutual friends that the coworker dumped her immediately when he realized she had absolutely zero money coming from the property settlement. She was left totally broke, living in a cramped studio apartment, forced to watch my life thrive from the outside. Sometimes the trash takes itself out, but occasionally you have to serve it with a subpoena first.